makes it all the bigger. All right, switching over here, looking at some Green Bay Packer information. Saw this on ESPN.com. Rob Demovsky. Green Bay Packers training camp preview. Full rebuild with Jordan Love? Question mark. Is it a full rebuild with Jordan Love? I know David Bakhtiari hinted that it was a rebuild. The Packers front office, including Brian Gutekunst, has said that it's not a rebuild. That's not how they operate. I don't think that the team, minus Bakhtiari, would ever really come out and say, well, we're in a full rebuild here. I don't know how many teams actually would do that. But in this case for the Packers, I side with the front office and saying I don't think it's a rebuild. And here's why. What positions are rebuilding? To me, there's only two. Wide receiver and tight end. You've got Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and Doubs has less than 350 NFL snaps, but he's the leader. He's the most veteran receiver as far as snaps go. And then you've got Samori Toure, who in this article pointed out by Demovsky essentially has the snaps of what a rookie would have because he hardly played. But Watson, Doubs, Toure, those are your top guys coming in, and then it's all rookies, essentially. So that's a rebuild position. And the tight end, yep, that's rebuild because you've got your two draft picks, Musgrave and Kraft, and they are rookies. They're going to be at the top of the depth chart. So those two, but otherwise, excuse me, some people may say, well, the quarterback is a rebuild position. Well, in a way, but I choose not to look at it that way because I say Jordan Love has been sitting for 3 years behind Aaron Rodgers. He's been learning. By all accounts, he's ready to step in. Now, how he performs, that's obviously what remains to be seen. But he's been practicing for 3 years for this moment, for this week, for this preseason, for this regular season, and beyond. I don't think that's a rebuild, per se. The offensive line is not rebuilding. You've got Bakhtiari and Jenkins manning that left side. That's going to be strong. John Runyon at right guard. He's experienced. That should be solid enough. And then at the center and right tackle position, you've got a combination of Josh Myers and Yosh Nijman, Zach Tom battling it out for those last two spots. So, however the offensive line ends up shaking out with those three guys, I think it's going to be solid. The offensive line's not in a rebuild. The running backs, A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, that's no rebuild. That's the best 1-2 punch, ladies and gentlemen, in the entire NFL. Now, believe it or not, believe me, it is. Defensively, you're young in some areas, but the defense is loaded with talent, albeit given into Joe Barry's hands. But the defense is loaded with talent, young guys and some veterans alike. Once you add Rashawn Gary back, you're going to be even more talented. The defense isn't rebuilding. Again, your only two sources of rebuild are receiver and tight end. Now, in experience, yes. We'll get to that in a second. But that is why my theory is this is not a rebuild year. If you're one that considers the quarterback position to be in a full-on rebuild, which again, I contest it is not, then I suppose one could say that the Packers are rebuilding. But that is my thoughts on it. This is from PackersWire.com. Question marks of Packers roster entering training camp. Now, there are a few that are listed here. I'm not going to go over all of them, I don't think. But different positions, different things that are question marks. First one that is listed by Paul Brettel inexperience on offense. And I would agree with that. Now, I said the offense is not rebuilding, but they are inexperienced. They're inexperienced, as we touched on, at wide receiver and at tight end. They're also inexperienced at quarterback, but inexperienced does not mean rebuild. It just means that Jordan Love, for example, only has one start, and he's played a few other series here and there. He does not have experience. The biggest learning curve, obviously, on the offense is going to be the mixture of a lot of young receivers trying to figure things out, a lot of young tight ends trying to figure things out, and a quarterback, first-year quarterback, who's trying to figure out how to be a starter all at the same time. So, yes, that's a question mark, inexperience on the Packer offense. But again, it's the Packer offense is basically split into two categories. One side, you've got experience. The other side is non-experience. Non-experience with your pass catchers and your quarterback. Experience when it comes to the running back and the offensive line. Now, that in Matt LaFleur's offense, remember, not the Aaron Rodgers offense, but Matt LaFleur's offense features a heavy run game. At least that's what its intention was. It's part of the reason, by the way, speaking of tight ends, that they had drafted Josiah DeGuara a couple of years ago. So while the receivers, tight ends, and Love are all trying to figure things out, the Packer run game can carry you for a while because of the offensive line and the experience that you have at running back. So, inexperience on offense, yes, but it's not like the entire offense is inexperienced and have all rookies or anything like that. Next on the list, again from Packers Wire, is the Packers' run defense. Now, to me, despite the talent, both young and seasoned, that the Packers have on defense, the defense as a whole, not just the run defense, the defense as a whole is a question mark because of one man, Joe Barry. I mean, you may have some questions here and there. What can Lucas Van Ness do? What kind of jump can some of the other guys make from year 1 to year 2? Devontae Wyatt, Quay Walker. You know, what are they going to do differently in the second season? But the big question mark is, you've taken all this talent, what's Joe Barry going to do with it? And if his track record shows anything, it's that he's probably not going to do a whole lot with it because he has not to this point in his entire career, not just with the Packers. And then the next unknown, according to Packers Wire, is the unknowns at safety. So that's kind of part of this whole idea of the not sure what to expect from the Packer defense, but your starting safety, the one guy you know is going to be a starter, who's already penciled in, is Darnell Savage, who was benched for poor play last year. He came back, he did a little bit better. But your one solid starter was a guy that just got benched as soon as last year. And then an open battle on the other side of him. Jonathan Owens started last year, 1-year starter basically, for a full season for the Texans. Rudy Ford. Ford played well, I thought. I think he should be the front runner going into camp. I don't know how he's not, or how he wouldn't be when that first depth chart comes out. He played well, but he's probably not going to be the biggest of playmakers. I don't think any of these guys are. You got a lot of young guys there too, some rookies that are all going to be vying for that spot. So you have a weak safety already as a starter, and then you don't know who the guy is opposite them. That also is a big question mark. And then the last one, I guess I'll get to them all. The last one was the kicker. So you have rookie 6th-round pick Anders Carlson coming in after how many years of Mason Crosby. And he's an unknown. So it is a question mark. He's an unknown. He's very similar to Jordan Love in that way. You hope he's going to be good. You're counting on him being good. You're banking on him being good. If he's not good, it's going to cause you a lot of problems. But we've never seen him in live action. Obviously, he's got a big leg. What I do like about him is that essentially he was handpicked by Joe Barry. I'm sorry, not, oh God, no. Scratch that. Let's cut that out. We don't want anyone picked by Joe Barry. He was handpicked by special teams coach Rich Bisaccia. That makes me feel good. I think Bisaccia is the best coach on that team. That's even ahead of LaFleur. So if he likes the guy, hey, I'll take it. I'll trust that. But those are some question marks. Again, from Packers Wire leading into this season. Another headline, Packers add 6 players to injury lists ahead of training camp. Now, the highlight on this is Rashawn Gary and Eric Stokes, both placed on the PUP list, and it's not a surprise. But this will add one more thing to our watch list for the preseason and for training camp, because these guys can be activated at any time during camp, and they can just jump right in. Now, there's a deadline after camp before the season starts that they have to be activated by. Otherwise, they're going to miss the first handful of games, about the first 6 months, or about the first month of the season. So, while we're watching position battles, like on the offensive line or at safety, one more thing to add to your list of watching, something else to add into your queue, is the return, potentially, of Gary and Stokes. Because believe me, the Packer defense needs all the talent they can have out there when you've got Joe Barry leading the charge. This from Pro Football Rumors. Luke Musgrave likely to open season as Packers tight end 1. It says Packers tight end depth chart is presently topped by 2 rookies, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Per Matt Schneidman of The Athletic, Musgrave is likely to start the season as Green Bay's tight end 1. No surprise there. Great athlete. Inexperienced. Now, it is hard, as we've seen through NFL history, for first-year tight ends to come in and to have big impacts right away. But if anyone can do it, it could be Musgrave, because he's such a freakishly great athlete. So is Tucker Kraft. But they're going to have to be thrown into the fire right away, because you got Tyler Davis behind him, just the special teams guy, and Josiah DeGuara, who will be an interesting one to watch this year, ladies and gentlemen, because clearly Matt LaFleur had something in mind for him, and I think I know what it was. Kind of like LaFleur's offense is supposed to be similar to Kyle Shanahan, so I think when they first drafted DeGuara, it was to have some kind of a role, kind of like a use check role for the 49ers. And then he had a little bit of promise in his first year to DeGuara, and then he got hurt. And then the fact that the Packers ran Aaron Rodgers' offense instead of Matt LaFleur's, I don't think it didn't give an opportunity to feature DeGuara and his skill set in the way that LaFleur and Goody intended to have it used when they had first drafted him. So, he could be one who makes more of an impact than people think. People look and say, wow, he's just kind of a forgotten guy. Well, maybe not this year. See what he does without Aaron Rodgers. See what he does in a purer form of LaFleur's offense, and then we'll talk. Thought this was good. I got to read this whole quote for you here as well. So this was from NFL.com's a write-up on a interview that A.J. Dillon was doing on Sirius XM recently. Headline, running back A.J. Dillon says Packers trust quarterback Jordan Love. Says everybody would run through a wall for him. Now, gonna read to you the quotes from Dillon. He says people trust him, people listen to him when he enters the huddle, because it's not like some new guy that just popped up just calling the shots. He definitely has all the intangibles. He's earned the trust of the locker room. Guys respect him. Guys want to play for him. Guys want to help him as much as they want to help themselves. Obviously, nothing's perfect in football. Everybody knows that. But I think he's got a lot of support, and everybody would run through a wall for him. That is some high praise from, well, A.J. Dillon's now a veteran. He's been there. That's some good praise. That's some high praise. And I'm just going to leave this here. I don't recall everything that was ever said through Aaron Rodgers' 18 years. I'm sure if I'm wrong, somebody will let me know. But I don't recall anyone ever saying they'd run through a wall for Aaron Rodgers. I'm just going to leave that right there. Speaking of Rodgers, today at the Packers shareholder meeting, Mark Murphy, Mr. Loudmouth, who speaks sometimes too much, he was talking about Aaron Rodgers. And he said he wanted to thank Aaron Rodgers for his 18 years of service for the Packers, and he got booed. And then he went on to say he's a Hall of Famer. His number will be retired. And he got a somewhat of a ovation for that. But it goes to show, it doesn't matter how many people come at me on Twitter, well, you just hate Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't say I hate him. I don't particularly like him. Didn't like him. Don't like him. But this goes to show, try to pick me out as being alone. Oh, no. There are a lot of Green Bay Packer fans who do not like Rodgers and didn't like Rodgers for a very long time. They'll recognize what he did and how great he was and the numbers that he had and his Super Bowl. And to me, I'll always mostly remember him not just for those things, but how he carried the entire Mike McCarthy tenure on his back. And Ted Thompson, for that matter. But, well, people from outside. Yeah, I ran into a guy. My stepson was wearing I think it was an Aaron Rodgers shirt. We were at Culver's not too long ago. And a guy came up to me, and this was right after Rodgers was traded. And he asked what I thought of Rodgers being traded. Now, it turns out this guy was from Georgia, so he was trying to get some information from me on how the locals feel, essentially. I told myself, well, a lot of people don't like him, didn't like him, and are not sad to see him gone. He was surprised, but a lot of people from outside, they'd be surprised at that. Rodgers not well liked. Just again, don't come after me. Look, Murphy thanked Rodgers. The fans booed him. So there you have that. All right, if you want to get a hold of the show, you can do that. Follow along on Twitter or X, whatever Elon Musk has it named now. At Wisconsin_fam. That's at Wisconsin_FAM. YouTube.com/@WisconsinFamily1. That's at Wisconsin Family, the number 1. Subscribe, if you would. Share it with your friends. I'd appreciate that. And follow along. And TikTok as well. Post a lot on there. A lot of the same stuff as we do on the YouTube channel. So come along. We have fun. Send us any comments. Just taking a look here to see if we have received anything on Twitter or TikTok or YouTube as in terms of what we've been talking about here. In regards to what I said about the Packers having two positions where they're in full-on rebuild mode being wide receiver and tight end, and those being the only two positions that are in full-on rebuild. APBE on Twitter says, and Dobbs is one minor step away from making the wide receiver room a strength. That's true. If the tradition holds true, where receivers, generally good ones, take a big step from year 1 to year 2, Dobbs and Watson are going to be big weapons for Jordan Love. Seeing if there's anything else worth noting here. It said that the Brewers have great pitching, the Reds have good hitting, and so far the Brewers have outmatched the Reds when it comes to pitching beating hitting. David says when it came to the last few series, he says we also were able to hit well and hit in clutch moments in our series against them. That's true. The Brewers did hit better in their series against them, but they did win some tight games where there wasn't many runs scored. But they did come through in the clutch as well. Let's see. Oh, this was from yesterday. PFF Fantasy Football on Twitter asked the question, it's a name a player that's going to surprise people this season. I said my easy choice from the Packers was Christian Watson. If fans outside of Green Bay, I think, didn't know Christian Watson last year, they're going to know him this year. I have a comment from Twitter on that says, my vote is Quay Walker, stud in the making. Just channel the energy on the field between the whistles. Yeah, how about no more ejections for Walker? Jade says Alex Magoo when he replaces Love and dominates. Alrighty. I can't add much to that. Let's check out TikTok here, see what, if any, comments we have for that. Oh, by the way, speaking of the Packers shareholder meeting, which I mentioned before, and loudmouth Mark Murphy, he had made the comment that we might see more of the Matt LaFleur offense or something to that effect. Let me find the exact quote, so I don't want to get it wrong. Yeah, this was from Matt Schneidman reporting it on Twitter. Said Matt LaFleur has pushed back on the notion that we're finally about to see what his offense looks like with Aaron Rodgers gone. Excuse me. I don't have my Diet Mountain Dew today, so I'm working on not choking off here. We've gone too far in the podcast for me to go down. Mark Murphy, Schneidman says, Mark Murphy, however, just said, we'll see a little bit of Matt's true offense this season. Matt LaFleur won't say it. Usually, it's the coaches and the guys lower down on the totem pole that get in trouble for talking too much. Mark Murphy just goes out and be at the WIAA girls state basketball game and goes, well, if everything goes as planned, we'll never have Rodgers in a Packer uniform again. Essentially, is what he said. But yeah, there you go. Confirmation. We knew this. Obviously, the Packers were running Aaron Rodgers' offense and what he wanted to do. Clearly. Doesn't take a rocket scientist. You don't have to be Elon Musk to figure that out, as we say. Mentioned it earlier. Matt LaFleur's offense should look similar to Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay. It's looked absolutely nothing like that, but what it did look like was the offense that Aaron Rodgers ran under Mike McCarthy. I wonder what the Jets' offense is going to look like this year with Rodgers and his group of guys that he took with him. All right, just wanted to check here. Do we have any comments to get to that are of note from TikTok? B. Golden says, as a non-Packer fan, what I will say is you have been blessed with decades of Hall of Fame quarterback talents. It most likely will look different this year. No. It is a astute observation from a non-Packer fan. That's true. Decades of Hall of Fame quarterback play. And chances are Jordan Love probably won't be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And again, I've said this before, and I'll say it again right now. It's not because Rodgers and Favre were Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and that somehow diminishes the chance for Love to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Love's career is not affected by what came before him. It's affected by Love and the coaching staff and all those variables. But none of the variables are how many Hall of Fame quarterbacks the Green Bay Packers have had in their history or the fact that they've had back-to-back ones. You can flip a coin 7 times, and if it comes out heads 7 times, it's still a 50% chance that it's going to come out heads the 8th time. It doesn't change the odds. The odds of having one Hall of Fame quarterback are whatever they are. The odds of having a second Hall of Fame quarterback are the same, and so on and so forth down the list. But just because most NFL quarterbacks aren't Hall of Famers or aren't Hall of Fame caliber players is the biggest odd as to why Love wouldn't be a Hall of Fame quarterback. But that still doesn't diminish his opportunity to do it. It still doesn't mean that he can't do it. All right, we're going to wrap things up here today. Appreciate you listening here on the Wisconsin Family Podcast. Twitter, follow along at Wisconsin_fam. TikTok, Wisconsin_family. Just search for it. And then youtube.com/at WisconsinFamily1. Have a great rest of your day. Really appreciate you giving us a listen here today. And we'll see you back here tomorrow on a Tuesday.